belated Ramadan to all our viewers. Hello and welcome to another Sunday edition of your weekday program, The Daily Debate, here on Nile TV International. I'm your host for tonight, Nancy Sarah Barakat. On the first half of tonight's program, we're discussing a recent workshop that was sponsored by the Independent Authority for Human Rights in Kurdistan, entitled Towards a Better Kurdistan, which aimed at transferring expertise and experiences, especially in writing its constitution, to the Kurdish delegation, stressing on the importance of the Egyptian constitution as one of the most distinguished in the region. The workshop was attended by a number of Egyptian and Kurdish thinkers and national leaders, topped by Amr Moussa, as well as a number of politicians and parliamentarians from the Egyptian side, and Pope Freddy Elbaiady, the honorary head of the Evangelical Church, and Jacquiline Isaac, political rights activist from the Kurdish side. Later on in the hour, and before we welcome the advent of the holy month of Ramadan, which begins here in Egypt tomorrow, we'll be discussing with our guest tonight the importance of this holy month to Muslims around the world, its significance in Islam, how Muslims should take advantage of the next 30 days, that and much more coming up on tonight's edition of the Daily Debate. And before I welcome my guests here in the studio for the first segment of tonight's program, a quick break and then we'll be back.
Be the first. The news live at the site of the event. Information on events as they are happening. If it's breaking news, it's Nile TV. For ads on Nile TV, Egyptian Radio and Television Union, the economic sector, info@nileinternational.net. Call us on the following numbers.
دي كل واحد يشتغل بضمير.
كلنا نشتغل، احنا نغير نفسنا بس.
الناس تعامل ضميرها وتعامل مرضي الله.
الناس تبقى كويسه مع بعضيها.
هيبقوا كويسين الناس.
كلنا خير ومصر كلها خير.
هي الدنيا، الشعب المصري ده طيب.
لو كل واحد ابتدى بس بنفسه البلد هتتصلح.
كل واحد يعمل ربنا وضميره. الناس تبقى حلوه كده مع الناس.
لازم اخلاق الناس تبقى كويسه، نحب بعض،
الاحترام،
ضماير الناس،
الاخلاق بس.
ان شاء الله ينصلح حالنا بقى.
نتقبل اراء بعض. هي الديمقراطيه، هي الديمقراطيه.
Nile TV International is your gateway to all the breaking news events across the world.
We're the most constant news service of the world.
We make all
The entire world is shifting towards social media. That's why we're following you and we're capturing the latest.
We provide you with minute-by-minute updates of the latest events happening around the world.
Reading beyond the news.
catching the news and following the latest and the most significant events.
You'll still be in the majors. It will be just a different sport.
Updates minute by minute. Where we have been, where we stand now, and where we want to be in the future.
Whatever is making the headlines, will bring you the story.
وجدت دوما مصر من أشقائها العرب مواقف تبرهن على أخوة حقيقية وصداقة وفية.
حكيم العقالة لن يكون النفط العربي أغلى من الدم العربي. لا وجود للأمة العربية بدون مصر، ولا يمكن لمصر أن تستغنى عن أمتها العربية.
كانت مصر ولا زالت خط الدفاع الأول عن الكثير من الأخطار بالمنطقة.
دولة الإمارات ستبقى دائما مع مصر.
تضامننا العميق مع جمهورية مصر العربية الشقيقة.
أؤكد مجددا دعم بلادي اللامحدود.
أثبتت الأحداث على مدى تاريخ علاقاتنا رسوخها.
نريد مصر آمنة سالمة قوية نحن مع مصر.
قوة مصر وعزتها هي قوة وعزة للأمة العربية والإسلامية.
جمهورية مصر العربية الشقيقة كانت ولا تزال وستظل قلب الأمة النابض وحصنها المنيع.
تحديات كبيرة، لكن مصر أكبر من كل التحديات.
خالص الشكر والتقدير باسمي وباسم شعب بلادي.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to welcome here in the studio Ms. Jacquiline Isaac, Egyptian-American lawyer and Vice President of the Roads of Success humanitarian organization. Thank you very much for coming in tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And also let me welcome Dr. Freddy Elbaiady, politician and former Member of Parliament. Thanks very much for coming in.
You're welcome, thank you.
Let me start off, ladies first, Ms. Jacquiline, let me start off by hearing more about the workshop, what it aimed to do.
Sure. Well, in 2011, after the revolution happened in Egypt, our heart was with Egypt, and we wanted to stand with the Egyptian people. And when we learned of the constitution that was being drafted in 2013, I was able to speak with Dr. Freddy Elbaiady, His Excellency Amr Musa, on many of the main issues relying around the constitution. So when we went back to Iraq as a humanitarian organization to help, we realized that many fled from the rest of Iraq and went to the Kurdistan area to find refuge. And it was very important as minorities that they felt safe. They were already going to the territory to feel safe, but they wanted to ensure that for their generations to come, for their children to come, that this is a place where they can have a future. Well, we learned that they were drafting a new constitution, and we wanted to make sure that the rights of all people are truly protected and that everyone was equal. So when they started drafting, we asked to bring some of the experts like Dr. Elbaiady to the region, and we met with the parliament and we had an amazing workshop sharing from the experiences of Egypt. What were the challenges? How did they overcome matters that were very similar in Kurdistan, like terrorism, like instability, which was happening in Egypt at that time. And they had such a great experience, a wonderful, if you want to say, taste in their mouth, and they wanted to learn more. So we brought them here. And it was an amazing, successful week. They learned from those who drafted the Egyptian constitution. And they heard about how you negotiate the non-negotiable items. That's something you can't learn in books. That's something you can only learn from experience. And that's what we had this week. We were truly able to talk about some very, very fundamental issues. The rights of minorities, which we don't call minorities, we call mekawinit, diverse groups. They're not lesser. They're diverse and they complete the beautiful most territory of Kurdistan. And so the Egyptians were able to share their experiences. How were they able to protect the minorities? How did they protect Christians? How did they protect women? What was it that they needed to put in that constitution to not just guarantee the rights in the law, in the document, but how to implement on the streets?
Who sponsored, Dr. Freddy, who was the main sponsor, who was the main mastermind, if you will, behind this workshop?
Well, actually, there are two main organizations, the Roads of Success organization and the Human Rights Independent Council organization of Kurdistan. They were sponsoring the workshop and acting like coordinator and inviting the Egyptian side who were able to share with their experience. So we got selected members of the parliament and former members of the parliament who have the good experience, and we got some of the eminent people who shared in drafting our constitution. They actually were a very good source of inspiration to the Kurdistani side. And we also learned some things from them, especially in the human rights field. They are, I'm afraid to say, they are more advanced than us in the human rights part.
Right.
But of course, our experience in the parliamentary life and in the constitution is far more than them. So we were able to give them our. And this also proves that our constitution is a model constitution.
Right.
I can't say it's a perfect, because there's nothing perfect. Of course, there's some things we wanted to change in it, but most of it, especially the parts about the rights and freedom, they are actually great. We just need to implement them. So we try to give this experience to them.
Right.
They were talking and asking and negotiating. I also arranged a visit to our parliament. They met with some leaders from the parliament, from the constitutional committee, and from the they had long talks about our parliament, our government, our strategy, and they were very much welcomed. First, we have very good friendly relation with the Kurdistani people, and we used to have some Egyptians from the Kurdistani origin, like Mahmoud al-Maliki and Ali Badr Khan and Ahmad Shawqi, the famous poet writer. Those are all from Kurdistani origins.
Right.
So we have some history with them, and I believe that we have also some future to have mutual cooperation and to teach them. And this again proves that Egypt is a model country, strategic country who is able to teach other countries how to write their constitution.
Well, Kurdistan isn't really a country right now. It's an autonomous region.
Sure.
And not everyone, just so we put everything out on the table, not everyone is for its independence, because some people believe that Kurdistan's independence could lead to other groups wanting their independence, which could in turn lead to the breakup of the Middle East into small statelets. What would you say to that?
This is not a matter about independence. This is not what the Constitution is about.
Right.
We are working with what we have now. What we have now is a territory that is working to, again, go back to the mosaic, bring people of diverse groups to one place and have it really a territory that they can feel secure and they can keep moving. Now, whether they're going to become independent or not, that is not the matter at hand. Our matter now is to make sure that in the territory that they're in, it is truly a safe haven. And that's what the world is looking at right now.
Right.
When did Kurdistan really become known? When did it really become on the radar? It became on the radar when they took it upon themselves to be on the front lines, to fight against terror, not just for themselves, but for the entire world. Right now they're proving to the world that they can make it. They can bring people in, as small as they are. They can welcome them. Though they are suffering themselves financially, they can help them and they can make them feel like they are equal.
Right.
So I say let's move away from that discussion, because right now at this moment we need to look at, like they say, fi nazif, like there is right now blood.
Right.
There's bleeding.
Right.
People are bleeding, and they're coming to this territory to say, we don't want to immigrate, we don't want to go far, we want to stay in our country, but can we be safe? And that is what this Constitution will do. It will say, right now, the laws of the land are being established to protect you.
Right.
And we're going to look ahead. We're going to talk about the implementation process in the future. And we're going to work together as a people to unify on our common goals.
Right.
And that was a big part of the workshop, actually. We weren't just talking about the laws that need to be put in place or the language that need to be put in place, but we were talking about thaqafa, how people of diverse groups together in one room to look at each other in the eye and say, wait a second, we're actually very similar.
Right.
I thought we were different. How can we help each other build this country? Because building this country, and again I mean Iraq at this point, building this country and bettering our territory for our children. See, with peacemaking, when you look at really what it's all about, a person may not change his position, but he may change his understanding of what his interests are.
Right.
And that's why unity, that's why peacemaking workshops are so important. And this applies to Egypt as well.
Right.
How do we unify against terror? How do we unify to ensure that there's not instability again? We come together and we focus on our common goals.
Right.
Christian, Muslim, woman, man, we are all citizens, we're all one.
Right. Do we know of any other similar examples or models, if you will, of where an autonomous region has a constitution and has safeguarded, as you say, its people from their in or within their territories? Because it is a matter to be, I mean, you don't want to look at that aspect of it, but surely when anyone talks about it, that aspect will come up, it at least will cross their minds.
Yeah. I think in Iraq, I think what's happening with Kurdistan is very unique.
Right.
I don't know if it's happened before, to be honest with you, but what I can say is I know that this situation there is extremely unique for many reasons. Again, you have to look at what's going on in the territory. Look at what's happening now. You are talking about a place that is now called a safe haven. It's a safe haven for the entire region. You know, you have Syria as well. So it has a very unique, you can say unique circumstances that are making this constitution and this territory work in the way that it is. And I think it's not, you know, it's very good to compare, but not when you're comparing two completely different.
Right.
It's like an orange and an apple.
Right.
The situation is different, and I think we need to just focus on what we have at hand.
Did you worry, Dr. Freddy, that this sort of workshop could be misunderstood or misconstrued by, for example, the Iraqi authorities?
I actually didn't think about that. We thought about we want to help the Kurdistani people who are actually seeking help. And as you said, they are not a completely independent country, but they have kind of independence, like a separate state. They under the federal law of Iraq, but they have their own parliament, their own constitution. So there is a kind of independence. And they
so it's sort of like a US sort of model where you have each state
not
has
typically,
its own
but
laws.
kind of. Yeah.
But not,
Not really.
Again, it's again, it's different. You're looking at completely different circumstances, and we have to look at it for what it is.
So what we are mainly considering how to help those people, and how to show also that how the Egyptian constitution is a great work. It has been many people did their efforts in it, and we are proud with this constitution.
Right.
So
Let's just reverse and say and ask, what did we as Egyptians come out with from this workshop?
Yeah, I thought that we learned some stuff from them, especially in the human rights field. Their human rights organization acts more powerfully than ours. They have more authority. They are not appointed by the government, but they are elected from the parliament, and they have, for example, a permission, or they don't need a permission to go to the prisons or to the police stations to investigate how people are treated and how the human rights are kept. In Egypt, we still have to get permission for our Human Rights Council to go to visit prisons or things like that. So they are a little bit more advanced in the human rights field. And we learned some stuff from them. And actually, I made a link between their organization and our Human Rights Council, and I believe this will be also of mutual benefit for both sides when they work on it.
Okay, and finally, my final question to you, Ms. Jacquiline, do you think that this was going to be perhaps a starting point for better relations and for more cooperations in other areas with Kurdistan?
Absolutely. I've been to Kurdistan this year 4 times.
Right.
And I could say it is a wonderful place with amazing people that really have potential, and they will be great people to work with.
Right, and with those words, I'm going to have to wrap it up. Thank you very much, both of you, for coming in. Ms. Jacquiline, American Egyptian lawyer and Vice President of the Roads of Success humanitarian organization, Dr. Freddy Elbaiady, politician and full Member of Parliament. Thank you very much for coming in tonight.
Have a good night. Happy Ramadan.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, let's take a look at the following report and to learn more about the holy month of Ramadan before I welcome my guest here in the studio.